Hey everyone, welcome to the 5 Beer Plan. I'm Brian, and this is the ongoing saga of an everyman's ale trail. In this episode, I'll talk about whale beers, cellaring beer, get inside the mind of Chris Gibbons from Brass Ring Brewing, and review Epitath 2014 from Heathen Brewing. In this segment of Tales from the Trail, I'm going to talk about whale beers. When I first started getting into craft beer, I had no idea what a whale beer was. It wasn't until I had heard of this mythical beer called Pliny that the hunt began. So let's start. What defines a whale beer? Well, for those that haven't already figured it out, this is going to be a hard-to-find beer. The way I look at it, a whale beer gets such a status due to limited distribution, small batches, or simply one-offs never produced again. Price can also be a deciding factor, but buyer beware. It is not always the best indicator of a whale beer. Pliny the Elder, for example, is widely regarded as the industry standard of IPAs, and it has a cult status as one of the original whales. Russian River Brewing has come up with a pretty tasty double IPA. It's brewed in the heart of wine country in Sonoma, California. The only way to get your lips on it if you're out of state is to travel there, or if you have a well-placed friend that could bring you some. I was fortunate enough to have a coworker who was able to fulfill that request last summer. Heady Topper from The Alchemist in Vermont is an Imperial IPA that tops the wish lists of many, including me. I used to regard it as unattainable, but in recent years, I have found that you can purchase it through third-party companies like Craft Shack, and you will get it shipped right to your door. The only caveat being is that if your state allows it. So that got me wondering, what is the rarest beer? An article from Hop Culture thinks it is Westvleteren 12, also affectionately known as Westy 12. This Belgian quadruple ale is brewed by the Trappist monks of the St. Sixtus Abbey in Vleteren, Belgium. As the article continues, it is sold only once a month, either at the door of the monastery or a no-nonsense tavern across the street. Westy 12 vaulted to the top of any craft beer connoisseur's bucket list simply because of the laundry list of steps and dash of luck you'd need to try a sip from these unmarked bottles. First, you'll have to call a hotline to make an appointment just to purchase the beer. Afterward, you'll most likely need to buy a plane ticket, fly to Belgium, rent a car, drive to a tiny town, and line up in your car at the Abbey Gate on your chosen date. Sounds like I need to update my brewery bucket list. One final whale beer on my dream flight is the Russian Imperial Stout Dark Lord from Three Floyds Brewing in Munster, Indiana. Every year, they host a Dark Lord Day where beer lovers from all over the country and probably the world converge on their northern Indiana locale. One day, I hope to make the trek to this event and see what everyone is talking about. Anyone out there in for a road trip? This week's Hop Hack is about cellaring. There are a lot of differing thoughts on whether you should cellar beers or drink them while they're fresh. There is no hard and fast rule of thumb with beers that may be cellarable, but certainly beers with a higher ABV or darker profiles are ideal. Beers such as Imperial Stouts, Belgian Quads, or barley wines are great candidates. I would stay away from IPAs and pale ales, which will not age gracefully at all due to the hop profiles. If you're thinking about doing this, for best results, you need to make sure the beer can be kept in a cool, dark place and stored upright. You could even keep the beer in your refrigerator. I've read a few suggestions on keeping temperature below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, but I think the main thing is having some consistency in temperature. I would also recommend keeping a list so that you know what you have stored and when you squirreled it away. The Untappd app has a great list feature where you can do exactly that. So what do I have in my cellar, you might ask? When I was able to get beer shipped from Tavour to the Midwest, I had a massive crush on the Lost Abbey in San Marcos, California, because I could get 375 milliliter bottles of their beer, and they had interesting spiritual names and images that really resonated with aspects of my faith. I decided at that time I would cellar a few of these beers. I have a 10 Commandments, a Noel the Abbey, and a Serpent Stout hiding out in my basement, and I can't wait to open them up next winter. Anyone want to join me? Now it's time for Barstool Banter. For this week's interview, my brother and I got to sit down with Chris Gibbons, who is the owner and head brewer at Brass Ring Brewing in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Chris, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for coming on out.
Appreciate it. So, first of all, how long have you been open here?
We will be open 4 years come January 11th, 2022.
Fantastic. How long have you been brewing?
I personally have been brewing since 2002. I think is when I picked up
Okay.
as a hobby at home.
Well, I know when my brother and I came here back in July of 2020, we'd heard about Brass Ring, never been, sat down here in your venue, and we're blown away by the beer, I'll be honest.
Well,
Beers
cheers.
Cheers, yeah. Yeah, we're here drinking a Manchester Mild. Fantastic. But when we were first here, one of the things that I like to do is I like to try a lot of different kind of beers. And I think at the time you had 10 or 12 that were on tap. And I don't know if you still offer the Around the World.
Yes, we do the Around the World.
The flight. And I don't know if it might have been even your son, Michael. He'd say, well, we've got this Around the World flight. And it's like, okay, let's try this. And every single beer was amazing, from the brown ales to the English bitter to the IPAs. I mean, they were all just solid. And as we're looking through the menu, we're seeing that you're importing grain and malt from Ireland, right?
Correct.
And nobody's doing that.
I think it could be unique. It certainly is something that we decided to do. It just developed as we move forward. So we opened with the guy that I mentored with. So I'm the brewer. The one thing I would like to say, after 4 years, I've made every glass of beer. Every crowler, every growler, every drop. I'm the one that mixed the mash and ran it.
Fantastic.
You look out sometimes from the brewery onto the patio and you see all those glasses.
And that's gratifying, right?
It is. And I've always loved making beer, and I've always loved sharing beer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's really what it's about at the end of the day. I mean, you can always go buy it, but to make it, I mean, for home brewing, the ideas, this guy told me he brought over some of his home brew, and it was good. I was like, dang, you can make beer. That is cool. I mean, whoever heard of such a thing?
Right.
Back in, and that was kind of the heyday of when home brewing took off, and I got the bug making beer and sharing it with my friends and my family. And I think that spirit's been pulled into why we wanted to do a brewery in the first place.
Sure.
We went out to this guy, Tom Hennessy, who has a brewery immersion program. He had a series of small 7 to 10 barrel breweries that he built from the 90s into the 2000s. He just retired.
Okay.
But Hennessy was a big fan of decide what you want to do as a brewer. What is going to be your point? And go in that direction.
Yeah.
So, there's basically, in my opinion, 4 major families of beer. So there's German beer, lagers, right? Pilsners. Then there's, of course, English ale, Belgian ales.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of like storied traditions in beer. I enjoy stout, browns, porter, IPAs. So English was a really easy fit for me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that Tom had stressed to us was keep your brew house clean. And one of the ways you can do that is by using one yeast strain.
Okay.
So we run the same yeast. And so they're dropping beer right now, and they're catching yeast in a minute. So they're going to take the yeast off of this. We just made DIPA last week, so it's done today.
Okay.
So the yeast from that DIPA is caught up and then harvested, and then we'll repitch that tomorrow when we make beer again.
That's so
we'll
cool.
do that over and over and over. Ideally, you could go forever in a perfect world. So
Right.
Before the pandemic, I think we were up to like 40 cycles. 40 generations with our yeast.
Nice.
So it kind of imparts its own flavor to our beer. So it does move around a little bit.
Sure.
So as long as it's performing and it's not moving in a direction that, I as a brewer don't appreciate, then we just keep rolling.
Sure.
So that's kind of how it started.
All right.
And so we were making English ale and English beers, porter stouts. There's a little poet, Bukowski, that's on the wall. He wrote a poem called Roll the Dice, which would give you some dicey advice. But if you take it, it can work.
Okay.
Which is go all the way. If you're going to do anything, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even try.
Right.
So this brewery, in a large sense, is going all the way. So when we bought the building, we were really just going to put a little lipstick on it, throw some lawn chairs in the tasting room here, and call it a day. About halfway through, we thought, no, we just got to do it right. So we gutted the building. All new electric, all new sewer, all new everything. And the same thing with our beer. So if you're going to do English beer, go all the way, all UK ingredients. So that's kind of how we got into the all UK derived malts. And they're treated differently. The malting process, it's the same, but it's different. It's a warmer malting process.
Okay.
Than it is here. There are caramel malts and crystal malts. So crystal malts are generally from the UK because it's a little warmer, the sugar tends to crystallize.
Okay.
As opposed to caramel. How big of a difference is it? It's not huge, but those are the margins that I try to work in, which are infinitesimal. When I make beer, the stout is at 155 for a starting mash temp. The IPAs are at 152. The red's at 153. Brown's 154. Anything short of that specific number, in my mind, is you're falling behind before you even start. But
love
we
that.
really do get it to the degree, and you'll see if you go on my Insta feed, I always take a picture.
Yeah, and it's great to see, Matt.
Because
and
there's
Michael
really a
back
dude
there.
in that room.
Right.
Taking grain at an ambient temperature. The room's at an ambient temperature. The water is static coming out of the kettle, and it's going into a static vessel. The mash tun does not have any heating apparatus attached to it or cooling. So you're just going to get what you get. You can influence a little bit with cold or hotter water additions, but by and large, you're kind of stuck with how well did you exercise your judgment balancing the size of your grain bill and your ambient temperatures.
And I love that you've got this precision in this temperature range that you work with. I'm not hearing things like I'm adding such and such to make things work. It's like you're adding the grain, the water, and that's it.
Yeah, and if you come into the tasting room, my law partner, business partner here, Karen, she's also an artist, so she painted what we call the four muses.
Okay.
So water, barley, hops, and yeast.
Oh, great.
Personified in the form of goddesses.
So little reminders.
So people will sit there and sometimes you'll see them, they'll put it there and go, oh, I see. But it's also a nice way to explain to people exactly what it is that we do. Because we do things a little different here. Water, barley, hops, and yeast. That's it. There are things that you can put into the brewing process to assist the brewer.
Mm-hmm.
You can put a kettle defoamer in your kettle. So when you draw off the wort and you're going into your boil, that wort is sugary. I mean, it's almost like syrup. It's thick. If you were to leave it unattended, just like if you left a pot of noodles, it'd boil over because you have all that starch and everything's moving around. You could put a kettle defoamer in your kettle, and that would break surface tension, and you could then go sit on a bucket and let your wort boil for 90 minutes or 120 minutes and not worry about it. So, but here we don't do that. So nothing wrong with kettle defoamer.
Sure.
It's perfectly safe. It doesn't impact the beer really in any real way, but just from us, from a philosophical perspective, it's just our idea that we don't want to do that.
I love that. Chris.
So I watch it, and for the first 30 minutes, you're just boiling off, bringing things together. So, I hit the button 3 or 4 times and turn the kettle off. It looks like it's about ready to go.
Okay.
And every now and then it goes, and we got to clean up a little bit. To me, it's worth it, because I know that there's integrity in the product that I'm making. Same thing with clarifiers down in the basement. All of our beer goes into serving vessels downstairs. So those are 220 gallons. So you could use biofine, polyclar, gelatin. Those are all common fining agents.
Okay.
The former that kind of mimics protein. It's a food grade plastic. So you put it in there, it'll grab all of the protein, loose protein out of your beer. It falls out like rain, precipitates out. So it doesn't get left behind, but what it does do is it leaves you a clear beer.
Right.
But the thing I'm most proud of is this beer is crystal clear. You can
It's gorgeous.
and this
Chris.
is
It really
absolutely 100% natural beer. Water, barley, hops, and yeast. That's it.
beautiful.
No more, no less.
So one of the cool things that you guys do, you've got a cask mark certification.
Yes.
Like you've got these taps here, and you poured them from the bottom up. They're at
52 to 55 is the range.
And if you've never had a conditioned beer, they're amazing. It doesn't matter what style you have, smooth, silky, flavorful, clear like you're talking about. So talk to us a little bit about what goes into being cask certified.
So cask certified, cask mark, it's a UK establishment, London, England. It is a collection formed by a trust from English brewers got together. So back in the early 70s, continental lager companies, Carlsberg, whatever, were coming in. They couldn't crack into the English pub. People didn't really buy beer at the store there. You went to your pub.
Right.
So how do you get Carlsberg into a pub in England? Answer, buy the brewery that sponsors the pubs and blow it up. All of the breweries are licensees. So the way we handle gasoline is the way they handle beer.
I didn't realize that.
So a pub was the equivalent, like you can't go into Amoco and buy BP motorcycle, right? Motor oil. So they would have their publicans, their licensees who carried their beer and products that they all agreed that they could carry, but and nothing else. And that's what Camera, right? You've heard of Camera
I have.
For real ale. That's because the big companies on the continent were coming in, buying the regional and local breweries, shutting them down, and then sticking forced carbonated kegged lagers at 38 degrees. And this stuff was disappearing, traditional English ale. And so Camera was the publican side, so that was the public's response, was to say, hey, don't take our beer away, please. And on the industry side is cask mark. The brewers got together and formed a trust and funded it, and that's cask mark. And the whole point of cask mark is to promote and preserve the tradition of cask ale.
And how long have you been part of that certification?
So we've had cask mark certification since February of 19.
Okay.
So almost a year after we opened, we got it.
That's cool.
And the interesting thing about cask ale, it is the historic presentation of beer, which I think people don't necessarily always understand. So they'll think this is a tap. It's a beer pump. It's a manual pump. Before modern conventions, in the 30s, the 40s, even 50s, refrigeration was still an issue in the UK. That probably was here in the States.
Sure.
And the ability to transfer, use, and implement pressurized gas, CO2, was limited. Didn't exist.
Right.
So how did you get it? How did you get CO2 in your beer? Put it in a cask, put the lid on it. Residual sugar in the beer is consumed by residual yeast. That carbonation can't get out of the cask, so it goes into the beer. Hence, you get this soft carbonation.
Yes.
Which is different than forced carbonation, which you can easily see and determine by your own palate. The mild is on here, on this engine, but it's also on tap. So so the stuff that goes into the vessel downstairs is forced carbonated in the modern conventional way, and then we always pull off a couple off the top and put it in a cask. And get it that way.
Nice. And how many do you keep on tap at any one time of your cask condition?
So we have three running at all time. If we get busy, it just goes away, and that's just
sure.
That's part of beer. One thing you learn as a home brewer: make it strong or make more.
Yep, absolutely. Do you plan to expand that at all?
We don't have a ton of room, and right now 3 seems to be the magic number. I could use a few more casks.
Okay.
Downstairs to store. So, but no, I think 3 is fine. We might go to 4. We got room for a 4th if we want to do it.
Okay.
We'll see. Once I get here full time. So we plan on doing some local distribution to bars. So 6 doors out the door. And then we're going to do some small batch stuff that we're a small batch brewery as it is. So I guess we're going to do really teeny batch.
Sure. How big of a barrel system do you have?
We have a 7-barrel system.
7.
So we actually can make a little more beer than that. So we finish about 220 gallons finish per batch. We've never done a half batch. We do full batches every time.
Yeah, what's the point, right?
Yeah. No, seriously. It's not much more work to do a full batch than it is to do a half.
So in order to be cask mark certified, what goes into there?
So the first step is they come in and do an audit.
Okay.
So they come to your establishment. That's a planned meeting. They tell you in advance. They're going to check your place out for being clean. They're going to look at your brewing process and make sure it makes sense to them. Then they get into your service in the front. So you've got to have beer clean glasses. So there's a difference between a glass that's clean and a glass that's beer clean. We take a lot of pride in how clean our glassware is. Because, that's what we serve our product in.
And if it's not clean, it's not going to taste good. And it's not going to look good.
Well, if it doesn't look good, it's not. Well, then you're fighting. You're already upside down. And so the one thing that we learned early on and very quickly, and fortunately because we had a really talented young lady come in who had experience in breweries working as front of the house.
Okay.
And so she got us started. So she let us know, like, hey, nobody waits at that door for more than 2 minutes tops. When you're starting a brewery, it's all about presentation. People come in, they don't know what you do, they don't know who you are, and even if you're telling them and even if you're showing them, doesn't always pick up. You know what I mean? Because everybody has their preconceptions. They also walk in the door thinking about what they think you are when they don't even know who you are. But when it comes to the cask ale, we didn't sell a lot of cask ale when we first started, even with the cask mark. Before cask mark, we sold hardly any. Now that people have gotten the word and we've built the following for it, boom. Now people come in the door and they know that's a unique product. They know that we're known for it. So we're not fighting all of that so much. Now everybody's kind of moving in the same direction. So cask mark wants your beer glass to be clean, beer clean, and they want you to serve your beer at cellar temp, historic temp, 52 to 55 degrees. They will send a guy or a gal up once or twice a year. So last year they came once because of COVID. The year before, in 19 they came twice.
Okay.
So you'll know who they are because they'll order a cask ale. You haven't really seen them before. And then they get a thermometer out and stick it in their beer. And you go, oh, hey, you're from cask mark.
And their checklist, right?
And then they do the whole thing. So beer clean. This is pro-grade shit you're getting right now. When you see a beer in a glass, and you see bubbles rising off the side of the glass, that is not a beer clean glass. That glass is decarbonating your beer because it is sanitary and it's clean, but it's not beer clean.
Because you want to see that nice lacing down the sides when you're drinking it too, right?
Well, yes, you don't want your beer degassing prematurely.
Sure.
You want to take your time and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want a flat beer at the end. So minuscule little microscopic particles are stuck to the side of the glass. They're grabbing it. They're knocking the CO2 bouncing out of that. So when you see those going up, that's not good.
Okay.
So in a beer clean glass, it looks like it would in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a beer glass, you don't see.
No, it's super clean, Chris. It really is.
And they're shiny and they're pretty and it looks delicious, and that's not always easy to do. I mean, it took us a little bit of work to get caught up on that standard. I mean, we've always had clean glass. So you got to be careful about the soaps that you use because those can be detrimental to the beer in terms of making sure that the glass is clean and it's not impacting the product going into the glass.
Ah, that's awesome.
So, I mean, the nice thing about Castmark is it reinforces the respect you have for your own product. One of the things that the servers or the bartenders supposed to make an effort to do, and they do. Our glass has the logo on it. So the idea is whenever you serve a beer, you put it down, and when you set it for the customer, Brass Ring's always showing up front, so that they know. We take pride in our product. We respect what we do. We respect our product, and we respect you as a guest. I want you to have the best experience in a brewery that I can possibly give you. I want you to walk out of here going, wow.
Every single time we walk out and say, wow, how can it get any better?
We have
Seriously.
over the door from Lord of the Rings. So speak
friend and enter.
And I want you to feel like a friend when you come in here.
Yeah.
A well-respected friend. I want you to be affirmed. I want you to come in here. I mean, the world beats the crap out of you every day. Your bank, your insurance company, everybody, they tell you you're not good enough. Here, there's a fee. There's another fee. There's another fee. It beats you down. Yeah. You should feel good when you come to your local brewery. You should feel like I matter here. Our perspective, and nothing makes me happier when a staff member comes up to me and says, yeah, we had a guest here. They didn't want to be here. They didn't want to like this for nothing. And I won them over. They let me at 25% cap.
Right.
Because that's what it's about.
It is.
So you have to work. But at least we always make the effort and go a little bit beyond.
Even the first time that my brother and I were here, we were showing an interest in the beer and the process, and you were just so stinking excited to show us out back. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm brewing. This is how I'm doing it. I mean, how many places do you walk into and the head brewer's like, hey, come on back. And we take you behind the curtain and show you what the great and powerful Oz is doing.
Yeah. Make a very simple beer.
It is. It's fantastic. Water-wise, how does that affect what you do?
We use the best water on the planet. Unsalted Lake Michigan water.
Okay. All right.
So city water. Goes through a carbon filter on the way to the kettle, that's it. So we don't do a lot of water. We don't really do any water additions. We'll probably get into playing with that. I mean, at this point, the IPAs are hoppy, so I don't really feel the need to start messing with gypsum and salt. pH is an issue in brewing. You can use acid. Just go get yourself some hydrochloric acid and pour that right in there.
Right.
You can lower your pH if you want. Or you could get acidulated malt, which is what we use. So we balance pH with acidulated malt. So acidulated malt is malt that before it's malted, the grain is the barley is exposed to a bacteria that produces lactic acid as a byproduct of its life cycle. And so what they'll do is they'll expose that to that bacteria, then they'll denature, so they'll heat it up, they'll denature the bacteria, that will leave behind an acidic residue. And so that's how we manage our pH. It is very predictable. It doesn't bounce around. It's just, 4 pounds for a stout, 8 or 9 pounds for a light batch. So if you're doing something like Blue Skies, it was all golden pot on top of it. It's pretty much a single malt. And 9 pounds of acidulated malt to make sure that we're driving the proper acidity for the enzymes to do their work. My beer might not set you on fire, but as long as you walk out the door going, that was clean stuff. That was what it was supposed to be. Then I'm a winner. And really the whole point of my beer and the way we make beer and what we want you to do, I don't want you to order 1 pint and drink half of it and go, well, that was a great experience, but I can't do the whole thing.
Yes.
I want people to drink 2 or 3 of them.
Right.
I want them to drink here like they would have drank at the kitchen table at my house. So I used to have happy hours back in the heyday. I'd make 4 different batches. I started off with singles, then I went to doubles, then I went double.
Oh gosh.
Well, it was like a train.
Right.
It would take me 3.5, 4 hours to make one batch of beer, and if I just kept it moving, I got another mash shot, and then I could do that. I could do a 6 or 7 hour day and make 4 times the amount. And the idea was to bring all of that joyfulness and sharing and community and family, bring it all into this place.
Yeah.
And I think we've been pretty effective. I mean, one of the things, like the decorations we did this year, we took a year off because of COVID, unfortunately.
Yeah. A lot of people.
But I want this place to be like, I want you to come in here and live your best life. So now, I mean, my goal is that the decorations, that there's something unique, there's something special, to give you a feeling that you're special, the people you're with are special, and this is a special moment that you'll take with you. And so it's kind of the whole deal.
And you get that. You really do from the front all the way to the back. Like you said, you've hired people that are the ones that are like, hey, come on in. You've got the beer. You've got a great kitchen out back. I mean, your scratch food is fantastic.
Yeah, that's Alex, our chef Alex Avaglaven, total baller, creative, hardworking. He's been in the business, in the restaurant, in the kitchen, cooking since he was probably 16, 17 years old. He's 35, pushing.
Wow.
I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's probably in his 30s. We're on this culture experiment that we're doing, which is we're going to gift first, and we'll get what's coming if we just do. We make everything else the priority. We'll fall in there some. And even with him, he's just he's waiting for the trick.
Right.
So 4 years later, he hasn't found the trick.
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things I'm really most proud of. So Alex is OG, Patrick in the kitchen's OG, Michael is OG. They're my kids, but they don't have to be here.
Right.
And they're free human beings. They can do something else.
Yeah.
Little Scotty, our lead server, OG.
Yeah.
So out of the staff, I think we have 4 people that weren't here when we opened. 2 of those have been here since before the pandemic. So they survived that experience with us.
That's great to have that longevity and consistency too.
But that's the only way you're going to get it. And I have an enormous passion for this, as you probably guess.
Yes, sir.
Like, try to turn me on.
Last call.
It's nearly time to wrap things up, but first, one more for the road. This episode, I've opened my cellar and unearthed a 2014 version of Epitath from Heathen Brewing in Vancouver, Washington. This was a beer I brought to a bottle share with my main beerski, so I am recording this after the fact. Brewer's notes. Buried in this beer are the remains of what started as one of those small batch side projects. Strong notes of black licorice, vanilla, toffee, and subtle roasted notes of roasted coffee that collide into limitless realms of intricate flavors. This Russian Imperial Stout clocks in at 10% ABV. Without further delay. So this is a bomber, and it's wax dipped, so it's got a lovely gold wax dip on it. One of the easiest ways to be able to get into a wax dipped bottle is to take a knife and score the wax all the way around under the crown of the cap. This might take you a little bit of time, but it's definitely well worth it because it will, for the most part, preserve the wax that is on the neck of the bottle. When I pour this guy out, it is a super deep, dark pour. There's a thin caramel colored head that appears. Now, as I swirl this around, what I'm getting are those notes of licorice. I almost get kind of leathery notes on the nose. So it's definitely got kind of that charred profile to it. The first few sips I take here, definitely roasted notes. So it's coming from some of the malt. Certainly chocolate malts are going to be part of the grain bill on this, I can almost guarantee. So it's got a nice bit of chocolatiness to it. I'm also getting notes of coffee on the finish as well. It's a little bit of that coffee bitterness there. The other thing as I'm sampling this is that it's very thin. There's absolutely no carbonation. So it's a little bit different, and I suspect that perhaps part of that is due to the cellaring, that after sitting in the bottle for 8 years, super, super, super smooth, really tasty. I was a bit skeptical, to be honest, so this is an experiment that honestly I wasn't sure was going to work out. I'm really happy that I chose this particular beer because it is a really good Russian Imperial Stout. Love the bottle art on it too. The cool thing about cellaring a big beer like this is that, well, first of all, at 10%, you don't want to be chugging this down. This is one of those beers that you really want to let warm up. And frankly, I did not refrigerate this beer. Basically, I pulled it out of my cellar. We popped it open. So it really was at room temperature to start with. So at that temperature, again, really very smooth, very tasty. So give it a chance. You don't necessarily have to buy a big bomber bottle of beer to put away. Certainly, you could choose to set back maybe a bottle of Founders KBS or maybe a Dragon's Milk. That might be something you could set back and see how it ages. So the cool thing is, it's a lot of fun, right? And honestly, if it didn't work out, well, you live and you learn. Overall, Epitath, I'd say this 2014 version is definitely a banger. I'd give it 4 tasters out of 5 on the flight board. So Heathen, great job. I look forward to possibly getting out there at some point and visiting the taproom in person. If you've got a beer you'd like me to drink and describe, leave a comment below. If you're a brewer and have one in mind, direct message me on Instagram and let's see what we can do. Well, that's all for this episode of the 5 Beer Plan. With so many podcasts out there, thanks for choosing to listen to mine. Join me next time when I'll talk glassware, share another hop hack, and finish my amazing conversation with Chris Gibbons from Brass Ring Brewing. Remember to hit the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes. I'd love to hear from you, so please follow me on Instagram, 5 Beer Plan 2022, and leave a comment to let me know what one of your whale beers is. Be sure to support your local breweries, choose your beers wisely, and drink them responsibly. Until next time, keep walking your ale trail and stay thirsty, my friends.